Everything we know, from people and ants to stars and galaxies to quarks and atoms, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer inside an even bigger universe. Ancient philosophers said that the universe is a dream that we're waiting to wake up from. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. All cultural items, from the dreams of our rodent-like ancestors, to books, to television shows, are merely permutations of the reality we think we live in. Today's age of computers and video games places simulations at the center of our cultural consciousness. A select group of us perform simulations for fun and profit, and we call them games, role-playing and otherwise. We live to run simulations. Join us on the Simulationist podcast as we explore our culture of simulations.
Hello once again, welcome to the Simulationist podcast. This is the 90th iteration recorded on the 25th of May 2014. My name is Josh Trelevin, and with me as always on the other microphone,
Ryan Kirkby, co-host, I'll say penultimate style.
Penultimate?
I don't know if I'm bringing my A game today. I do know I can at least bring my B game or better, so I'm going to say I'm the penultimate co-host. I might be able to upgrade that. We'll find out by the end of the podcast.
We'll find out which game you bring at the end, and we'll judge you if we remember to.
Which by the way, have you ever heard of like an RPG called like the A game, so that you could bring it when you're gaming on gaming night? I brought my A game. Oh, it's only the player's handbook for the A game. I
would imagine like the A game would be like a card game or something.
Oh.
That's just what I'm picturing.
Okay, I can see that makes sense, yeah.
Because it can't be that, 1,000-page tome, because that's more like, I don't know, it's A to Z game.
I brought my Alpha to Omega.
A game feels like it ought to be slim, it ought to be compact.
Do you suppose that's our slang term that they came up with for when they were developing that Apples to Apples card game? They just called it the A game?
Oh, who knows?
Only the developers and playtesters know for certain.
I'm guessing they probably didn't, but...
In that case, I'm kind of disappointed, because, the opportunity is clearly there.
It's true, though. A lot of games will have, code names. Like, 4th edition was Orcus, wasn't it? Or was 5th edition Orcus?
No, 4th edition was Orcus. They publicly went with D&D Next for the 5th edition.
But as their code name, really?
And then they revealed it for everyone. I don't suppose they were really being that private with 5th edition after what they learned for 4th edition. Keeping things private and not listening to the fan base has problems happen,
They invited fans in a lot earlier in the 5th edition. Sure, fair enough. Yeah, because Orcus was like, a code-named project. And
I think it's also a programming language at this point.
Might be. Okay, so that's D&D talk. And D&D has been on our minds, although maybe we should leave that for a minute and talk about
yes,
our week.
I think we do have some D&D news. That's why it's been on our minds this week.
Everybody probably who listens to this podcast probably already knows, but D&D 5th edition will be on sale this year.
Yeah, as I told everyone at the beginning of the year, you squirrel $20 away every month. That way it's not too much. By the time the books roll out, it's not going to hit your bank account that hard. So hopefully you've been doing that, because now you should be able to have about $100 saved up, which is good, because the main books, the core 3, are going to be $50 American a piece, not including taxes. So, you Canadian gamers out there, oh boy, that's going to really ding your pocketbooks unless you put $20 aside every month. Next month though, the little starter kit rolls out. Those of you who are experienced within the last couple editions of D&D might not really need it, at all. It is only $20 American sort of thing, so, if you got like, oh hey, I found $20 in my wallet, what am I going to do with this? No, you don't go get yourself fries and cheeseburgers or anything like that. Get yourself the starter kit.
There you go.
It will last a lot longer than the burgers and fries.
Well, you don't necessarily need the starter kit once you buy the player's handbook.
So that's not going to come out for a whole other month.
Okay. Yeah, so you get a month of use out of it. Well, I mean,
that, and if you have a friend who isn't into the game but has expressed some interest, then you re-gift a month later. Say, the next stuff is out right now. If you want, I can give you this. You can get yourself acquainted with the system, and then you can come on in and with a bit more of a feet on the ground sort of scenario.
So you're saying I can wait and get my own copy after you're done with it?
No, because I know you're good enough at D&D. You're not like a ground-based starter sort of thing. You're not a person who would be completely out of their water, like, what is this role-playing game scenario?
Yeah.
So I might do that with someone else who's like, oh, yeah, I remember hearing about D&D. I just never got into it when I was younger sort of thing. It's like, well, if you want, I got the starter kit. I could loan it to you. If you like it, keep it. If you don't, you can give it back and say, well, at least you gave it the old college try, so to speak.
Yeah. And like... Yeah, that's right. Because I'm an advanced D&D player, which doesn't exist anymore.
Which is almost ironic because you started in 3rd edition, but advanced D&D was back in 2nd.
Yeah.
Of which you have only passing familiarity, I'm afraid.
That's true.
But hey, I've got a lot of old 2nd edition books. If you want to, spend some time just browsing through them at some point, I can loan them to you. Look, it's the system happening again.
Yes. We're still living in that gilded paper age.
Well, I mean, I think the paper age is going to last longer for the role players than it will for most other types of readers, simply because there's something about nerd cred about having these sagging bookshelves full of tomes of ancient, mysterious gaming things.
Yeah, or that's just creepy and weird.
No, because
D&D's always been walked that edge.
Well, it has always been on the one side, but all the books are like the same size. So unlike some people's bookshelves, where every book is like a different size, and some are sticking in, some are out, and some have to be put sideways. No, D&D is very tidy and neat. Oh, and for those of you who do need to clear off the bookshelf space, from what I've looked into, it appears as though the 5th edition is going to be about the same size and dimensions as 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st edition. So they have been able to keep, if you don't like the fact that they've dropped the setting or dropped this campaign or, changed these rules around, at least they keep the book size consistent between editions.
Well, it won't, if you've played D&D 4th edition Essentials, it won't fit those books.
No,
those were a different size.
Nobody liked Essentials, though. Not even the people who love 4th edition, apparently.
Really?
It got a lot of flack. I've never delved into it to figure out why. I never got much of a handle for 4th edition myself. But that's just what I've been hearing on the screaming mass of people that is known as the Internet.
Yeah, well, the Internet hates everything.
Well, they don't hate ponies. Like, half of them love them. Have you seen the Internet about that? They go crazy.
That's true.
And Adventure Time.
Although
everyone loves Adventure Time.
Not everybody likes ponies, and it seems like the people who don't like ponies are also the people who don't like anything. And the people who do like ponies are...
Okay, well, what about Adventure Time? Have you seen anybody actually naysay anything about Adventure Time? Because I haven't.
No.
Okay, Adventure Time is the one golden spot in the Internet.
Okay.
You're not allowed to naysay it because, it's mathematic. So there we go. But yes, long story short, tangents aside, $50 a month starting 2 months from now. If you got an extra 20, it's like you find some money laying on the ground, get yourself the essentials, get yourself caught up. Some of us haven't been playing D&D, since 3rd edition.
Yeah, now is a good opportunity to get back into it if you have been away for a while. Personally, I'm probably not going to buy the PHP right when it comes out, although I say that now, but when I go in the game
you're going to
store,
go there, you're going to see it, it's going to be shiny, it's going to be, hey, Josh. And you're just going to fall in love all over again.
Yeah. I mean, those are some good memories. Like remembering the first time I bought the 3rd edition, the set of 3.
I still remember coming home with the box set for Ravenloft's Requiem. The first chance for a PC to accurately and properly play an undead race was just such a magical moment for me. It still brings a bit of a tear to my eye, honestly. I love you, Requiem.
Okay.
I love you so much.
So,
honestly, the 3rd edition rules for playing something like an undead, like a vampire, or even like a ghoul, are so much easier.
Yeah, sure.
So I guess there's something to be said over memories versus efficiency. But that's not our topic for this week.
We're not talking about undead characters. I guess before we get into a main
we'll put a pin in that
sometime.
maybe some other week, right?
Undead characters, yeah, that'd be good. We should talk about our weeks.
Yes. What have you been doing this week, Josh?
What have I been doing? Okay, a lot of coding for Minecraft. So
very nice.
making little modifications. Was I working on the weasel last time?
I don't believe you've mentioned the weasel last week.
Okay.
So this is like a weasel as in a creature, not the weasel as in the nickname they used to have for Pauly Shore when he was on MTV, right?
Right.
Okay.
It's the animal weasel.
Okay.
And I realize that every time I say it sounds kind of funny because you're adding weasels to Minecraft. But I did spend a good portion of the last week basically relearning how to code for how to do the modifications for Minecraft. And I finally I told you about Eclipse last week, like how I downloaded that. So I was working with Forge finally, which is sort of it's a fan generated API. API standing for something API.
All points of interest. It's like an APD but with an I instead of a D, right?
It's for programming it. Something programming interface maybe. I don't know.
Advanced. We'll say you're advanced there too.
Basically,
your programming interface is advanced.
It's what basically lets you modify like a game, like Minecraft.
It's one of them script kiddie programs, isn't it?
Ooh, I suppose it's kind of like that, yeah.
But you're not actually hacking anything, so it's okay.
Yeah. That's right. So I've been relearning how to do all those things and all the little bits like making the texture work and drawing the animal and making sure, because I had him for a while. He was like the weasels were like they wouldn't stay on the ground. They were like falling through the floor. So I had that.
Mind you, I still have that problem happen with cows, pigs, and chickens.
True. That happens.
Sometimes I wonder if the chickens are trying to escape me when they do it that way.
And then I had their neck pointing the wrong way, so they had their head floating off in space and their neck pointing down into the ground. You know,
apparently a problem very similar to that is how they created the creeper. They were trying to code for pigs, but they got the shape and how the thing oriented for the main torso, and it stood up, and that was like really creepy, and it said, that's so creepy, it should be a monster. So they reskinned it, and then you have a creeper.
I didn't feel that kind of inspiration with my weasel. Although I did get some weird-looking shapes, like with sometimes the blocks would be sideways, so it would be 3 separated cubes, like with nothing between them and little legs.
Ooh.
But ultimately I got it working.
Wait, could you make the legs invisible and just have it be effectively like 3 like moving cubes in the air?
Absolutely, yeah.
Then could you put that like in the swampland and effectively create like a will-o-wisp?
You certainly could.
That would be awesome. Has anyone done that before?
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, check out, there is like huge mods full of new monsters. There's Mo Creatures, which is mainly...
Oh, yeah. Mo Creatures.
It's mainly actual animals, like sort of based on real-world animals.
Can you get an elephant in that one?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. I will check it out then. I would kind of like an elephant in my game.
I think they did elephants and mammoths.
Well, I don't know about a mammoth, but I'd like an elephant or two in my game.
Yeah.
Could you ride them? Did they make sure that their saddle available?
Well, I'm betting you money that someone has done a rideable elephant for Minecraft.
Because I don't want just a saddle. I want to create like the full, like
a howdah.
Yeah, like the luxury yacht of riding stuff.
Well, I don't know. Maybe somebody has. Maybe they haven't. I don't.
If they haven't, I'm disappointed in the internet. I'm not angry, internet. I'm just disappointed.
Well, they probably have.
Okay.
And then there's other mods that are like monsters and kind of more weird things, which would probably...
I wouldn't mind seeing a cuboidal beholder. I won't lie.
Oh, cube holder. Cube
holder. I would dig that.
Yeah. Well, again, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody hadn't done it.
Maybe I will have to start putting some mods into my game.
Yeah. Well, if nothing else, just look through, and because like people do like little mod spotlights on YouTube, so you can just watch people play.
I suppose I could just Google, Beholder Minecraft.
Beholder in Minecraft. I'm sure. I almost feel like
if somebody hasn't actually made it for the game, I bet you DeviantArt has got somebody who made it up as like a fake style.
Yeah. In fact, I'll put a link anyways in the show notes but I'm sure you can Google it and find it. So
I'm digging that already in my mind, man. I got that fully formed in my head.
Yeah.
And I love it.
So let's see. So what else? Oh,
wait. Does the beholder have like a saddle ability?
Technically, all entities in Minecraft can be ridden by other entities. Like they made that.
I've seen the chicken getting ridden by a baby zombie.
Yeah. So.
Or child zombie. I don't know what they're supposed to be.
The only question is, is it? I think that there's just like a Boolean switch that you have to check
click,
to
click,
be
click.
This monster is rideable, and you would probably have to do like
some definition as to what size can ride it, so that way you don't wind up with like a giant riding a chicken.
Well, if you want it to be sort of, I don't know, as realistic as somebody riding a beholder is.
Hey, I've seen a lot of pictures of drow riding beholders.
Because one of the ways that people do like custom maps and stuff and custom like machines.
I've seen Norway as a custom map.
But they do. They'll like have an experience orb, and they'll set it to never despawn and not get absorbed, and then they'll have creatures riding it. So you get like weird effects with a cow or a boat riding an experience orb, and it sort of floats around that way.
Groovy.
Yeah, I don't, because those orbs are entities too, so they can be ridden. So almost anything can ride anything else. It's just how weird do you want it to get?
Well, for now, not too weird.
And I suppose you'd have to generate a saddle, like you'd have to actually sort of do a 3D model of that. Although 3D modeling in Minecraft is pretty fun because it's like, here's a box. I'm done.
That is a lot of the advantage for Minecraft is the cuboidal nature of the whole thing does allow for that. But well, now here's the question for you. In your opinion, would the cuboidal beholder, the cube holder, would that be a mini boss the same way that they have like the Wither, or would that just be a random spawning oh crap moment?
Yeah, I guess it would be comparable to the Ghast. The Ghast in the Nether.
Okay.
Be comparable. It might be a bit tougher than the Ghast, I guess, because in theory the beholders are supposed to be intelligent. So if you get
they're intelligent but insane. So you could get away with a faulty AI that way. Just saying it's nuts.
They could be everywhere. I'd imagine like it might get a bit tiresome to just have beholders kind of like all over the place, like. Or if they spawned at night with the rest of the monsters.
I am a little cheesed off at how often I'm looking over my city these days, in the night, looking over and seeing, 1, 2, 3, 4 Endermen out there.
Yeah.
It seems like they should be something a little bit more special than that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, the world is the Ender world or something.
So you'd see them more as just like a spawning, semi-boss monster thing.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've heard of the Twilight Forest mod, but that is a mod that adds a new dimension called the Twilight Forest.
Oh.
And it's like a
spooky new trees?
Yeah,
Wormwood
it has
thing?
some new trees, and it has like little items like what is it called? A firefly that you can use for a light source.
Please tell me it's got little tiny goblins that run around in there.
Yes, and they're horrible. They're so annoying.
Excellent. That's all I want out of goblins, is small, annoying... Although I do like them in World of Warcraft, where they got a lot of personality to them.
Yeah, I recommend the Twilight Forest, like, just to try it. I mean, just, if nothing
maybe
else...
start a new world sort of thing.
Create a new profile, a new modded profile, so keeps your world separate. I think that's nice. How that works anyways.
I'll double check before I download any mods.
Yeah, and back up your old worlds. But
that's always just a good idea, honestly.
But I recommend trying it, just to see what it's like. Twilight Forest.
So that's a few tangents off there, but hopefully everyone's got a nice image of a cuboidal beholder in their head.
Yeah.
Oh, one final question about that. Explosions, like what with the creeper, does that have to be at 0.0, or can you make that like a range thing? So can you actually mimic the beholder's like disintegration beam?
You could. Yeah, that's easy to do.
Oh, that could get nasty.
Well, because Ghasts shoot fireballs, right?
So effectively just make it an invisible fireball.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Yeah.
Oh.
Just don't even bother rendering the fireball, because that is actually that's work, because you have to write code to say, okay, I want this fireball to have
I suppose
a
you could just make it be a beam sort of look to it.
Yeah, you could have a beam or just nothing, just not render it.
I think disintegration works best with a beam, because it's got kind of the sci-fi laser style to it.
Yeah, you could do that, yeah. That'd be fun.
Oh, that could get really annoying.
Well,
but
yeah.
it works too, because then it's like the cube holder is like the ultimate, like advanced style of the creeper. He's like, I blow things up, but from a distance, I am going to ruin your wonderful, precious creation.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It might be too similar in that sense to the Ghast, because the Ghast has a lot like that.
Well, the Beholder would have several different things that can only do something like one thing at a time, sort of thing.
Yeah.
You can have fun with that.
But yeah, what I was saying about the Twilight Forest was that it has special dungeons in it with bosses. Like, I think it has a Minotaur, and it has a maze with a Minotaur in it.
I can dig that, yeah.
And it has some other special, like there's a Super Ghast. It's like super good.
Das ist Übergast.
An Ubergast. And what else? Like a giant creeper in one of the... And there's castles around the forest and stuff. So yeah, you can conquer them sort of like bosses, basically.
Very nice, very nice. I can dig that.
So they could easily have another one of those.
If nothing else, I know I'm going to hit up the YouTube views for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
And so
yes, you were talking about weasels, though. Weasels.
Yeah, that's more my speed. So I made 5 different colors of fur for them.
Oh, very nice.
And I haven't made the armor out of fur, but you're going to be able to make fur suits.
So it'd be like a modified version of the leather, then, effectively.
Yeah, basically.
Sweet.
Except there's 5 different patterns.
So for your weasels, would they be the same sort of spawning style as pigs and chickens, or would they be more like a reverse monster where there's a random chance for them to spawn if the light value is 7 or higher? So then you go out your day hunting weasels, and you don't have to worry about depopulating them over the course of the day.
Well, the way I have it, you can always change it, but the way I have it now is they just spawn like regular animals, except only in 2 biomes. In rivers, alongside rivers, and the other biome is ice plains. Because nothing
Arctic
else.
weasel.
Yeah, there's not a lot of stuff.
I've spent some time in the Arctic biomes. It is very barren.
Yeah, so now it's
Although if someone was to mod in Yetis as a wonderful little Arctic nighttime encounter,
yeah,
they could throw snowballs for fun and then just maul you horribly up close.
Yeah,
just putting out an idea or two.
Yetis, sweet. And they eat. They attack your cows.
Oh.
I was gonna have them attack the chickens, but then cats already attack chickens. So I was like, well, then the chickens would really have it rough. So I was thinking,
to be fair, a chicken's life is not like oh, I've been reincarnated as a chicken. I had such a wonderful past life to do it. No. Chicken is for horrible people who have to reincarnate.
Yeah, good point.
So.
And then, sheep are already attacked by wolves. So the only animal that doesn't have a natural enemy now for my worlds is the pig.
Wait, who attacks horses?
Nobody. Actually, in my game, slimes attack horses.
Oh. Can you ride the slimes?
If you coded it, yeah. If you
I've played enough D&D games to know you don't sit on the gelatinous cube. It doesn't matter how dirty you are, how smelly you are, the cube will decide to eat you and dissolve your flesh away.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I know better than that.
But that's not vanilla,
that's wonderfully modded. That's what we'll call, a Baskin Robbins. You got 32 flavors of awesome going on.
Yeah. So I did that. Oh, and I watched a movie last night.
Oh, which movie did you watch?
I watched The Watch.
Oh.
It's starring Ben Stiller, Jonah Hill, and Richard Ayoade and Norm Macdonald.
Yeah, so that's about the 4 guys part of the neighborhood watch that wound up encountering an alien?
Yes, that's the plot. It was very funny, super funny movie. A lot of bad language, but that was, that's always fun.
Sometimes you got to work blue. It really accentuates the "oh my gosh, what's happening" sort of factor.
Yeah, oh my gosh, exactly.
Well, hey, they can go blue. We try and keep things PG-13 at the worst.
So let me see. What can I say about that movie? I said it was good.
Does it work as a comedy sort of thing? Because I'm looking at that one movie where they got like the family's living, a nice peaceful life with the baby, and then all of a sudden like a frat house moves in next door, and they wind up like trying to get revenge on each other back and forth for the differences between them. And I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, I'm not going to enjoy that movie. I just watched that and it's just going to be jerk fighting jerk. I'm not going to have anybody I want to root for. So, was it good as a comedy? Is it something you're going to watch and say, like, okay, this is unrealistic, but I'm enjoying it, even though, like, these people, if it was done in reality, could be, like, portrayed in a negative light? Was it all good, Josh?
It was good as a comedy. It was funny in a lot of places. And there are moments in it where it's, like, you can see the cheesy lines that in another movie it might have been like, oh my, that was so horrible. Like, that line was just so bad, it's a really bad line.
Yeah.
But
I can't believe someone actually said that. Someone got a paycheck for that. Oh.
Yeah, these 4 characters, these 4 actors, these 4 comedic geniuses, basically, they read those really, cheesy, horrible lines. They read them in a way that it's, they feel like they know, they're aware that it's so cheesy, and I don't know, like, that must be a skill. That must be like an actor's skill to be able to say something cheesy, like, or a really bad line, and make it sound as if, your character really, really believes it's the most important line in the world.
I have seen that, and that's interesting because it's one of those things where you will remember when they said that line, and that will come up later on. Because I remember a Futurama episode where Fry gets worms. And they all put on like their RV helmets to, operate little microscopic versions of themselves as they go into Fry's body. And,
oh yeah, I remember this one.
And tickle the splanchnic ganglion to trigger a massively powerful bowel movement.
Right.
And Leela finds out, oh, she loves this Fry that is fit, smart, and basically all around a good person. He's Fry plus this way. And so she gets herself in with the miniature version, and they're about to activate that, and she busts in and she says, "Don't even think of tickling that ganglion." And she delivers it so seriously, despite the fact that it's such a who else is ever going to use this line sort of thing. Or alternatively, a lot of episodes from Third Rock from the Sun. That Dick Solomon, I mean, he can say any sort of thing and make it just be the most dramatic line you've ever heard.
Yeah, I like that. And they're not even jokes, right? They're not even, they're just like something that the character thinks is absolutely serious and is just saying the thing.
And it's such a ridiculous thing, and him saying it or her saying it is in such a serious manner loops the horn.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is an interesting skill to be able to say something so bad and have it come out so good.
I think so, yeah. And I think that's what they do to sort of, to forgive, the places where it's like, oh, well, that doesn't make any sense. It's like, I guess I won't give away. I'm trying to think of something.
Don't give away too many spoilers, but,
But it's like, well, that thing didn't make any sense, but as they do it, somebody delivers a line that's absolutely like, okay, I forgive them because it's funny and cool at the same time. So yeah,
Kung Pao Enter the Fist, I think, is a nice other example of that. Over the top martial arts with some old stuff, with a guy re-recording it and everyone's lines ad-libbed effectively, dubbed over different.
And the other thing I liked about this movie was sort of the premise that it's about the 4 guys. Like, it's you don't really see the aliens much at all in the movie.
It's in that case, it's a Rod Serling sort of thing. It's not about the supernatural. It's not about the weirdness. It's about the people, the normal, and how they react.
Because those 4 characters were all like quirky and interesting in their own way, and they're very like oblivious to the aliens. It's like they knew that that this was a big deal. But they're also very wrapped up in their own things, so they're very like, I don't know. I guess the word is flawed, although I hate to just say flawed because
they're very human.
Yeah, very human. Good point, as opposed to alien.
Well, I mean, if you try and describe alien to a person, they're going to go all weird. You describe human to a person as flawed but likable, ideally.
Yeah.
So very nice. So you'd recommend that, eh?
Yeah, I recommend it. It's fun to watch. It's pleasant, and it's a bit exciting, and it's funny too. And there's violence in it, but for some reason
it's like cartoonish, over the top.
Yeah,
violence
we were
with
laughing at whenever there was violence. So I mean that's probably normal. I don't know.
I mean to some degree. I mean you wind up like seeing a person get hit in the kneecap with a crowbar, and if everyone acts like it's a serious real thing, that's not funny. But, I mean, you watch District 9 and you see the alien suit, like alien weapon fire off and blow a person into various particles in a nice fine mist. It was a serious scene, but it was hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess there's something about overpowered, weaponry just trumping, like, oh my gosh, that person just got evaporated. No, it's like, haha, that was hilarious. I loved it. Do it again. So.
Yeah. Okay, so that was my movie review. Recommended.
Without any spoilers going on. Very
13
nice.
dwarves out of 13 for that one.
All right. I can't say very much about the movie I watched this week.
Okay.
It was 1957's The Land Unknown, which was basically kind of like The Land of the Lost.
All right.
Actually, it's a lot like the Savage Land sort of thing. The plot is that it's 1957, and like the U.S. is doing some Antarctic investigation stuff, to help render terra incognita less incognita, sort of thing.
Okay.
Helicopter goes out on a way, and it's got to try and come back, but oh no, incoming storm, sort of thing, and it winds up like, oh no, we can't gain any more altitude, and so it's going down, and all of a sudden it's going to hit ground. But it doesn't, and they wind up finding like a valley crevasse, like 3 kilometers deep, sort of thing.
Ooh, cool.
Or 3 miles, something like that. It's pretty far deep, and the whole place is heated by sulfuric geothermal events up there. Right. A lot of the water, they say tastes, like rotten eggs. So there's a lot of sulfur in there.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Unfortunately, they had one good dinosaur. It was a nice little plesiosaur sort of thing to interact in the water, and that's where they spent almost all of their special effects budget.
So they didn't have other dinosaurs? Or?
They had other dinosaurs, some of which were like lizards, like just superimposed on a background to make them seem like huge. And then there was a T-Rex, which was a man in a suit, the same way Godzilla is a man in a suit. But
okay.
I mean, say what you want about the classic Godzilla style. You could tell he was a man in a suit, but at least it looked right. This one did. I mean, the arms were just like kind of like attached onto the side, like it wasn't that good. You could tell it was a dude in a suit.
Sure. Yeah. What else is gonna be?
They could have done like a Ray Harryhausen type thing with stop, motion clay animation at the time, and it probably could have been really sweet. But they couldn't afford anything like that.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong. I do appreciate what was going on there, and the circumstances of events, because there was like personal sacrifice potential and crazy other person potential, and what are we going to do? And there's only so much time left before like the expedition leaves. They probably think we're already dead. How are we going to get out? This is done. That's done. Like that. Yeah. Oh yeah, they also had like a pterodactyl sort of thing, but it was clearly just like it didn't even flap its wings. It was just something on a string going by. But yeah, it wasn't that much to write home about. I did enjoy it because I enjoy all old cheesy movies, and I enjoy all that sort of stuff. But I've seen a lot better. But so I cannot fully recommend that movie. I call it 6 Dwarves and a Hobbit out of 13.
Okay.
Just to make it about a 50% sort of thing. If it's on TV, watch it. If it's not, don't go hunting it down.
Yeah.
Unless you want to watch every movie 1957 has done, and you're one movie short.
All right. And were there stars in it that you know? Because you seem to know some of the stars from that era.
Well, from the era, they'd be like in other sci-fi horror type things, but nothing like, and this happened to be the professor from Gilligan's Isle. No big stars. Nobody that wound up making it so far that the average person today would know who they were.
All right. Well, that's what was it called again?
The Land Unknown.
The Land Unknown. Okay. Yeah. So it's kind of a rip-off of all those.
There was a lot of stock footage stuff going on for what it's like, in Antarctica, and then they just cheesily superimposed the helicopter on front to make it like, oh yeah, they're in the helicopter going over.
Yeah.
And there's a scene at the very end where they crash into some Antarctic waters, and they just swim, like to a nearby rescue boat, and no one is freezing their tail off because it is the Antarctic water. They seem to have forgotten that sort of thing. Everything else was okay, at least. I will give them points for some of the stuff they did about mentalities. They could have done so much more, though. There was one bit. I will give a bit of a spoiler away here.
Okay.
There's a person from a previous, Antarctic, expedition that crashed 10 years before. And they're going off to try and, get out there. And he's like, "Yo, you'll rule the day," sort of, speech. It's like, "Oh, yes, you think you're doing good now. Just wait until, you get the 9 months of darkness. When it's just heat and darkness, you'll go blind from the darkness and blind again from the sweat in your eyes," sort of thing. And it's a pretty good speech. And here's the thing. I'm familiar with the Savage Land in Marvel thing. They have, like, down in the Antarctic, oh, hey, there's this nice tropical paradise. And mutant powers don't work there, sort of thing. So he's like, "Oh, no, extra challenge, survive without dying, regular person, ha ha ha."
Okay.
And that's got its own thing, but they act as though it's just like a regular place down there. They don't make any mention of the fact that it is beneath the Antarctic Circle, where, yes, you will encounter that brief period of time where there is no sunlight for months at a time.
Yeah, brief.
Yeah, well, in this case, with what they had for the Land Unknown, because it was like a valley, like in a cleft so many, kilometers, miles deep, I could buy the 9 months of, like, not any real sunlight coming in simply because of the angle everything's going at.
Yeah.
But in the Savage Land, they didn't have anything like that. They treat it as though it's like, "Oh, yeah, welcome to the Savage Land, New Jersey." Of course, we have, like months of the year and all that, but there's no, permanent darkness season going on. And so they did at least mention that. So, like, the people that were writing the script were like, "Dude, isn't it beneath the Antarctic Circle? Don't you have, like, those months of darkness?" Like, yeah, we'll write that in. That guy who's, like, there, he's kind of crazy and all that sort of thing. We'll make sure he's saying that just to help highlight why he's gone crazy. Okay. Can you imagine several months in a dinosaur hospital? It's not just dinosaurs. They had creepy, like, tentacle monster beasts, like, for the plants. It was kind of like a hentai sort of thing going on there. Really creepy. But, they can you imagine being in such a horribly hazardous, and life-threatening situation, and then on top of it all, no sun. It's dark for months at a time. I hope you figured out how to make fire during the light season, buddy, because you're not getting another chance aside from blind scratching around. And so that is deep to think about. And they could have done something about, like, how evolution, made things different. So you wind up having with all these blind dinosaurs, and then you don't need a dinosaur that looks real. It's like, oh yeah, like his eyes have potentially atrophied, and like the pterodactyls are like bats, really, with their echo sonar location. That could have messed up with like the helicopter thing and all that. And no, they didn't do anything with that, which is a shame because I think that would have added a lot more personal potential, and they could have gotten away with a lot of crappy dinosaurs that way. It's like, well, it doesn't look like a T-Rex. Well, it's not a T-Rex. The T-Rex had to use light all the time to see its prey. This is what the T-Rex becomes when you have 4 months or so of complete and utter darkness.
All right.
Da-da-da-dun. Or I suppose in this case 9 months, as they say, because of the crevasse style.
Right, because the sun's at too low of an angle.
You might be able to see some sunlight, get some reflection off of the top of the cliffs up there, but you're not getting much down here.
Yeah. Although in the summer it'd be light all the time.
All light all the time for I guess in this case it might just be for it might not even be all the time there, because if it is a valley style formation, then as the sun rotates, you'd at best be able to have a night dark sort of pattern. Also, there was also a whole lot of mist and fog going on in the area because of the heat and humidity.
Okay.
So even when things are nice and sunny up above, you're not getting the full effect down below.
Right.
So they could have had a really nice, like, this is like almost like a subterranean sort of thing going on, and explain why you got dinosaurs underground. It's not really underground, but there's enough cloud and and precipitation cover. You're not getting a lot of sunlight at the best.
Yeah.
So it's like so much potential in there, and yet it just like squeezing an overripe orange in your hand, it just comes out rotten in the end. It's just
Well, there you go. Rotten review from Ryan there.
I wouldn't call it rotten per se, just it didn't live up to what it could have been.
Okay.
So, well. In other news, I played Minecraft this week, but nothing big on that.
Nothing big on Minecraft, just...
Well,
digging holes.
I'm still... Well, I mean, I did encounter my first slime ever as I was finishing off some of the underground work in my place.
Oh.
It's like, there's a big pit here where I'm supposed to be putting my own little cozy home. What's down there? And then I start, it's like, wow, that's a really deep shaft. What's down there? Oh, hey, I could go all the way to the bottom of the map this way. And so there's a lot of minerals I got to wind up digging out, and a lot of lava I can get at a fairly easy moment's notice. But
cool.
By and large, I'm just cutting down trees, putting, filling up caverns full of solid earth. just to, I do want to create a really nice monster, like collection and shredder and all that sort of thing, and just a mob grinder, really.
Yeah.
But that's not going to happen with the amount of caves I've got in my area. And Minecraft is so riddled with caves sometimes, it seems ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I'm just doing what I can to backfill everything I can and just, prevent the monsters from spawning where I don't want them to. Mm-hmm. Where I don't want them to being outside and where I can not gain experience from killing them. Which reminds me, have you heard much about the standard mob grinder and anything like with witch spawning?
Well, what about it?
Because from everything I've seen on all the reviews and all the styles for up on YouTube, I'm not seeing anything that witches would wind up dropping at all. So I'm wondering, do witches just not spawn in the thing? Do they require a special situation to spawn, or do they not walk themselves into water?
I think they would work just the same as any other mob.
They're just a bit of a rare spawn, and
they're just rare. They might require 3 squares of height. I'm not sure.
I do know that you don't get all the best stuff off of them being auto-killed, so you do have to set up at least a partial "I will kill you myself" switch.
Yeah, I can't remember how far they went with that implementation, because it used to be that they just drop whatever.
Now it's just very basic stuff. You might get some sticks or some sugar off of them for an auto kill, but you're not getting all like the sweet, redstone ore or any of the sulfur type stuff. Oh well, I guess I'll just fight them regularly by picking them off with a bow outside of their range of detection.
Did I ever tell you about my witch? I found a hut. This was back in the time when witches only spawned in huts, which I kind of preferred in some ways. But I found a hut, and then I built like a giant mushroom canopy over top of it, so it was always dark, so that I would always have witches spawn. But I don't like to kill the witches. I like to just sort of watch them. Is that weird? I just like to watch them.
It's a little creepy, but what if I was to recommend that you listen to the soundtrack from Wicked?
Yeah.
And then especially like one of the first songs where, it's like the witch killing hunt sort of thing. Could that potentially spur you into your witch's side?
I'll have to hear the track and decide.
Okay.
Get a good witch hunt song going. But actually, no, it's always been my kind of wish for witches, and I might do this since I'm getting back into modding. It's always been my wish to have them, you can become friends with them or something. Give them a mushroom or something, and then. It
would be like a one-person village sort of thing, except that you automatically start off effectively hostile with them.
Yeah, and you have to somehow win them over. I mean, I don't even know how you would do that, but I think that would be a fun mini game.
Would there be any way to take and turn a witch's hut into a movable monster so you can have a Baba Yaga's hut sort of thing going on?
Absolutely, that is doable.
Awesome. I'm going to have to check to see if that one's been made too. Maybe I should just win the lottery and have people, just do commissions. Could you code this up for me? Could you code that? Yeah. I can pay you. And then I will have the greatest mod ever. With my living lands and Baba Yaga huts. And
as with all of these, if you put it in Google, you might just be surprised at what you find, because someone may have already done a Baba Yaga mod. I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
And it just happens to randomly spawn witches from some sort of witch spawning egg it drops every once in a while.
Yeah, it could be like that.
Dig it. I can dig that, yeah.
Your mob farm, the mob grinder that you
I'm going to be getting one, but I think I've got just enough height to make one work without having to dig out a little bit extra out of my basement space.
Okay.
But I'm going to have a lot of fun with that when the time comes. So this last week has just been basic maintenance and upkeep and just shearing sheep so I can make wonderfully colored walls on my second story. And I still haven't even started on a third yet. But honestly, it's a little weird being on the second story of my second layer of my city, because I've got it so that none of the peasants can go up there, and so it's very beautiful, but very, very empty, and that seems creepy. I think
you've done most of the houses then and everything.
About 2/3 of it, at least. Just got the frames up. It's taking a lot of wood to do, so it's like, oh, okay, I guess I got to chop more trees. Oh, I guess I got to shear more sheep. Oh, I guess I got to get more jack-o'-lanterns. Yeah. Oh, I got to get more wood for more doors.
Story of Minecraft.
And it gets me sometimes with trees. Like you dig out a piece of sand, and then all the other sand above it just collapses, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I wish you could do that with trees.
Like, well, you should get the... There's a mod for that, too. Although I like the trees sort of the way they are, but I have thought of buying the... or not buying. You don't have to buy any mods. You just download them.
If anyone's trying to sell a mod, they're going to find themselves rapidly outpriced by someone doing the same thing for free.
Yeah, that's true. I think people ask for, donations, but that's voluntary, so... yeah.
That's just to show support for a wickedly good mod.
Yeah, and I think some of the bigger ones probably do make enough money to sort of, at
least make it worth their while to keep active on it,
yeah.
Okay, this is what I do on my weekends.
Yeah.
I work hard at modding.
I suppose, yeah, if I ever, if I finish my mod set, including weasels and other animals, my weasel mod, then I could probably start asking for donations. I probably wouldn't get anything, but
I don't know. See, what you do, I got to do is get people's attention first. You got to do something you haven't done, and that's why we got to go back to the whole living land sort of thing. It's such a radically different biome of creepiness. That's gonna get everyone's attention, and then oh yeah, hey, he's got weasels too, man. He's like, oh, look what he has done over here, and then that's how you start getting in. Is first you wave the big flag. It's like, pay attention to me, and then you lure them in with your quality other mods.
All right.
So, it's all a game of salesmanship, really.
Sure.
At least that's what I'm claiming, so I can look big on the internet as we do our podcast.
Yeah, cool. With that, should we move on to what we were going to mostly talk about?
Oh, yeah, because this was not the only time this week with the movie that I encountered dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And that got me to thinking.
Because you ran into a dinosaur walking around the street.
No, just a few incidents online of people doodling up a dinosaur doing something.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's like, oh, hey, I haven't gone to, the dinosaur comics sort of thing done by Ryan North, a fellow Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he's got dinosaurs talking and all that. The fun bit about that strip is that what's happening in the panels never changes. The dinosaurs are always doing the same thing at every panel. Panel one's always panel one. The dialogue changes.
Yeah.
And so, despite the fact it's basically just, three people talking, it's dinosaurs doing stuff, and it has to happen in a certain sequence, and that's kind of groovy. Although, I will admit, you can see it as an art project in a sense, because he's been doing it for so long. You just click back, and then you just scroll quickly through them all and just watch as the words change, but everything else stays the same. So that's kind of groovy. But, I got caught up on that. I was like, oh, dinosaurs again. And I'm looking around, and there's dinosaurs there. Oh, there's a dinosaur thing going on there.
Yeah.
And it occurs to me, why are dinosaurs so darn popular? I mean, I can understand why Jurassic Park made them popular once again. That was a great movie.
Yeah, they're scary.
They've been popular long before then. So what is it that captures humanity's interest with stuff like dinosaurs? Also in the news, apparently they found the biggest dinosaur ever discovered. Sort of thing.
Really? Recently?
It's freaking huge. One of its leg bones is bigger than you or me.
Yeah, I believe it.
It's something you see a dinosaur bone out of the Flintstones sort of thing. From memory, I think the last one I remember being the biggest dinosaur ever was Ultrasaurus or something. It's in the same sort of species, from what I've been told. The long-necked ones that eat the really high trees or potentially live in the water, so they got to keep their heads up. They're still not certain as to how aquatic some of these larger dinosaurs were.
That's an interesting thought, because we have the blue whale is the biggest animal that's ever lived on Earth.
And it can't really live very well on land because, it dies under its own weight. It can't breathe.
Yeah.
So some of these dinosaurs, they have suspicions that they spent a lot of their time aquatic, and the long necks were for keeping their head above, where they could eat like swamp grass, marshes, and all that sort of stuff floating on the top.
That would be a pretty deep swamp. I guess, swamps can be deep. That's fine. That's
well,
allowed.
It doesn't have to be too deep a swamp because they still got to reach up on the top of the trees.
Okay, yeah.
And I hate those primitive trees. Every time I look at a primitive tree from like the age of dinosaurs, it just disgusts me with its primitive, horrible simplicity. Just ugh.
Well, wait. So which came first, needles or leaves?
The leaves came first. The needles are a nice adaptation to colder weather patterns.
Okay.
But you look at the trees today, you go outside, take a look at some of those trees. Those are beautiful. Those are the apex of plant evolution. And they are beautiful.
Okay.
I don't care how much you have to rake up in the fall, how annoying that gets. They are beautiful. And you look at the trees, back like when the dinosaurs were around, it looks like fungus just on a tiny, to the power of n sort of size difference. That's it.
Yeah.
And it's like, you trees, you could have done so much more. You are so primitive and ugh.
Now there's a movie for you. Jurassic Tree Park.
Jurassic Arboretum.
Jurassic Arboretum, where it's just about the trees.
Sadly, they wind up getting outcompeted rather quickly by the current trees. They had some old styles there, get up high and then sprout some leaves, as opposed to our trees, like everything out everywhere, occupy all the space. So they get outcompeted. That's why you don't see them around anymore. They're just not efficient. Although I will admit they do make some pretty awesome petrified wood. That is their one saving grace.
Okay, there you go. There you have it.
But yes, they're nothing compared to the dinosaurs. Even if you go back and take a look at what did they think dinosaurs looked like in 1927, and you take a look at this World's Fair had them and they looked so stupid. But no, they still look pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So is there something in particular that catches the interest for why we like dinosaurs so much? Why we keep seeing them turn up in movie after movie?
I don't know, because dinosaurs sort of culturally are a recent thing. I think they only came out with the concept in the 1800s, because before that, I suppose, they had thoughts of dragons and stuff, and I imagine if they found bones, they would be like, oh, well, it's a dragon or whatever.
Mind you, that's not the only conclusion you get from seeing dinosaur bones. I do recall a Blackfoot myth for the First Nations thing, when they found the T-Rex sort of skull every once in a while around the Drumheller region and all that. They called it the grandfather of the buffalo. Which, thank goodness, the buffalo's as tame as it is, because Grandpappy Buffalo was just a monster. Oh my goodness, have you seen the teeth on him?
Yeah. In North America they have the Thunderbird too,
which might explain some of the winged creatures, definitely.
Yeah, well, I know, I don't think any serious people actually think this, but there are, there's the Bigfoot people think that the Thunderbird might have been a dinosaur that sort of survived, or a dinosaur or a pterosaur of some kind, but it's probably not, because they would have been dead long before that. And a Thunderbird can just be a big bird. And
I hate to say this, but there are some interesting size restrictions on flight. There's a reason you don't find birds naturally as big as a 747. Because, the bigger you are as a bird, any flying creature, the more oomph it's going to take to get you off of the ground. And so after a certain size point, you're either gliding or you're not flying at all anymore. Sorry.
Yeah.
You can technically see that in some people that don't take proper care of their birds. Something like a chickadee, or a parakeet will wind up getting too fat, and all it can do is hop around. It's not flying anymore. And they go, oh, why isn't poor Polly, flying around? It's because you keep feeding him your table scraps. He's as huge as like a big old cat toy right now, and it's just of course he's not flying. It takes too much energy for him to lift. He can't generate the full power for that. So, there are some size limits on that.
Yeah.
It may be that nothing as large as what they believed, like the Rock or Suppose what was that creature in that biblical myth? Beside the behemoth and the Leviathan.
Well, yeah, I remember Behemoth and Leviathan since we're doing dinosaurs. But a flying
Yeah. It's like Zyx,
know.
like a ZYX or something like that.
I don't remember that from the Bible. I mean,
It's towards
dragons.
the end. It's just towards the end. There's the big beast of the land, the big beast of the sea, the big beast of the air, and like in the end, God or Jesus or whoever smites them all, and everyone has a wicked good feast on everything.
I don't remember that from the Bible, but I might be rusty.
I don't think it's a part of the Bible many people look too deeply at.
Yeah, maybe.
I remember it simply because it's like a huge beast on the land, in the sea, in the air. It's like, wow, they got everything covered. Yeah. All they need is a giant beast from space. If only they had known. Oh, well.
Yeah, well, I remember something about the ox from representing land. I think it was probably an eagle representing the air, and
the creepy things of like the giant eel sort of thing for the Leviathan. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember.
So maybe it's the same connection as to why people like dinosaurs. Maybe it's just like it's like this creature, but so much bigger and more awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot like we travel in circles of D&D, so we have encountered fictional versions of almost any animal that you can imagine enlarged to monster size. So that's one thing. Like, it's definitely...
So that is an angle of an appeal.
That it's big.
It's like a lizard, but, dude, it's the size of a 2-story building.
Yeah.
You could have someone up on the porch there looking at it in the eye. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Of course, mind you, the velociraptors being around human size are a nice one, too, these days. You get the creature that's, it's smart and it's a complete predator. Like, we think we are apex predators. This thing's good, too, and it loves to eat us. Because, I don't know why.
That's good. And, that's a big part of, Tall Tales and fish stories. It's like, it was this big, and Babe the Blue Ox, the biggest ox ever in the world. That's sort of a... so there's definitely appeal to, like, just giant animals. And for some reason, those just make good stories. Just, it was that big, and,
As the Japanese would call it, the kaiju sort of thing, where you just take any creature and just, I'll make it big enough to make it super scary.
Yeah, and then have it stomp on a city. That's a good way to make a movie. So you can play with your...
mini sets and all that. If you're big on building those miniature stuff, but you don't have a spot to keep it all, film someone destroying it. Put him in a rubber suit. Put in some fake military people to interspice. Look what he's doing now. As he, then he smashes it, and there you go. So it's a nice way to keep your hobby new and inventive.
I guess so. I mean, I think it's probably just natural impulse. If people are employed in storytelling, that's just something you reach for. It's something that's readily available. It's giant animal or monster for that matter.
Okay. So that's an interesting angle. Now let me put an idea by you.
Okay.
Dinosaurs are open source. They are the monster everyone can use, and everyone has a very decent knowledge base on. How's that grab you for an idea?
I like that. Well, some of the the most popular dinosaurs are widely known, like
Stegosaurus,
Tyrannosaurus Rex,
even the fake one, Brontosaurus, who did never actually exist, but is a nice representation of a certain class of dinosaur species.
Yeah. But once you start getting into like weird, like I don't know how many people know what I'm trying to think of one. Albertosaurus is one. People probably know that one.
The Albertosaurus, the Utasaurus.
Utasaurus.
I'm waiting for someone like a car group to actually sponsor a dig, and you wind up with like the Toyotasaurus. Because that would be just amazing.
The Nike-saurus.
Wouldn't it be nice if like Nike actually sponsors like an archaeological dig, and they find like one of these fast running dinosaurs and they go, perfect, name it after us. It's the Nike-saurus, the fastest running dinosaur ever.
I think you might not be allowed to name dinosaurs after brand names. I think there might be a rule, and same with like planets and stuff.
But I do know
species
that they've named at least one species of bacteria after Stephen Colbert.
Yeah, they can name them. It's allowed to name them after people, but I think brands are out. At least as far as I know. I mean, it might change, but
I don't know why in that case, because it's the person who discovers it that gets the opportunity to name it. And we are just lucky we haven't had anybody with a severe case of, like, I want to name it after a swear. So we've got the Hitlerasaurus.
I think there are rules, though, or at least conventions, that sort of, people who name species, like, the biology and stuff, I mean, they do run it by other people. They can't. I mean, yes, they have. It's technically they're allowed.
Well, see, here's the thing. In
it.
Almost every case, it's being sponsored by like an educational body.
Yeah.
So before you can submit your paper, you have to get it agreed by the dean, and the dean is not going to allow you to name it like the double deucesaur.
Well, I'll tell you another secret about naming, is that I don't think there is like an absolute rule that everybody has to call the species what you called it. So if you really did call it like Hitlerasaurus or something,
some horrible name, then
people the next person who writes about your dinosaur says, well, I'll just call it whatever-asaurus or Germanosaurus. Would they call it Germans? I don't know what they would call it.
Well, okay. Well, we'll take for instance the Bob's a Jerkosaur.
Yeah.
Because, the guy hated Bob.
Is that from the Far Side?
No, I'm just making this up. They
like a Far Side cartoon.
Yeah, well, the guy who was writing the thing, hated, Bob, who was working down the hallway, who kept playing his radio too loud.
Yeah.
So, it's the Bob's a Jerkosaur. And then one other person could wind up saying, okay, I like it, but I propose this name for it. We'll call it the Terrible Runner, because it has really big feet compared to its size, so we don't imagine it could actually run well. We think it might have been like a paddling dinosaur, like a duck. So we'll name it like the Terrible, swimming, Terrible Running, dinosaur. And that'll be the Latin name. That might get picked up, but I do believe for the official purposes, it will always have the at least that name first in the Wikipedia. The Bob's a Jerkosaur.
Yeah, well, Wikipedia Wikipedia might get changed depending, because that's sort of how science works is sort of by consensus. So it's not necessarily that.
It also works by officialness too. So the guy who discovered it named it this.
Yeah, but the only reason that officialness exists is because other people agree to it. So if he names his dinosaur offensively.
But if the people don't, take it sort of thing, it does start opening a slippery slope as to what you're going to call it. And that leads us back to the world of this creature has a dozen different names depending on where you are and who wants to follow which conventions.
Well, no, this is what I'm saying about consensus, though, in that, if enough people are offended by the name or whatever. If maybe they won't be, but if enough people are, then they can say, okay, well, no, we're not taking that. We're not going to use that name. And among these, people are sort of official authorities, like heads of universities or departments and scientific organizations. But they're all different, and they're all.
We're the administrative body for Nature magazine itself.
Yeah, editorial boards for journals and stuff. So everybody sort of has to agree, and. I would imagine that if there was a name that was offensive enough...
Bob's a Jerkosaur. In this case. We'll go into deeper territory.
I don't know. Well, if Bob was, happened to be on some editorial board of some journal or, the head of some university, then, yeah, I think that probably wouldn't fly.
I think we should instead call it the Georgianese Chilasaur.
But it also... consensus works the other way in that, maybe Bob doesn't like being called a jerk, but the rest of the scientific community's well...
That is hilarious. I love the fact that such a name is so petty. It perfectly highlights the human nature. So, yeah, we'll keep the dinosaurs the Bob's a Jerkosaur.
Yeah. But, consensus is awkward, and there is the risk, like what you said about having a dozen different names and stuff like this. But I think generally consensus is the way that science has to work. And as far as naming goes, it's funny because it's not even an important issue. It does take up an interestingly new importance now that you can Google it as a search term sort of thing. Whereas before, you'd be looking through this author's done this and this and this, that sort of thing. Now you can just Google it. So what was the name of that? The Bob's a Jerkosaur. But also, like, if you've been to Wikipedia lately and you've read, like, entries on, specific species, they'll have one name up at the top, this article is called blah, 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 like the black-footed ferret or whatever, like which I was looking at in reference to my weasels earlier on. So it says, the article is titled Black-footed ferret, and that's in the URL for the article. But then immediately, first paragraph, it's like this creature is also known as, and it has several alternative names in bold.
And that's what that's what Linnaeus was trying to get away from.
Yeah.
That's why we got the system that we do for the scientific terminologies.
Yep.
So yeah, but in the end, I don't think there's actually any prohibition on creating, the Nike source if Nike happens to fund your expedition. And I think that's going to wind up coming to a very poignant head at some point in the future as companies actually do, spend their money.
The Monsantosaurus?
Well, the Monsantosaurus, I don't think they're going to want to do because that opens itself up to a lot of, like controversy.
Might be bad press for them.
Well, they get enough bad press as is. The Monsantosaurus people will take up like, oh yeah, it's the giant beast that is Monsanto. It's a dinosaur, like sort of thing.
Actually, I'll tell you who I wouldn't put it past right now is Google. Because they're acting like they're treading that line between not being evil and being evil.
Yeah, kind of what happened to that old saying, you can do a lot of good without being evil.
And I think Google would do that. Although that would be kind of, that would annoy
the Google Optrix.
On Google searches, if you're Googling a Google
Although
forest.
I can actually see Google foregoing that because, the Latin or at least pseudo-Latin that they tend to use for dinosaur names, mixing badly with Google as the number, like a 1 followed by 100 zeros. It'd be like the hecatonaries, in Greek. Yeah, from the Greek myth, like, oh, we've got 100 hands. What are you going to call us? The 100-handed ones. 100-handed hecatonary.
Yeah.
Oh, God dang it. That's our name now forevermore. Sorry you didn't have anything more poetic to name yourselves.
It just occurred to me, though, that like Google probably wouldn't want, for the same reason that Kleenex doesn't want anybody to call generic tissues Kleenex, and that Xerox doesn't want generic photocopies to be called Xerox because they want to keep their brand, what is it called?
Synonymous with the product.
Well, non-diluted, I guess.
Q-tips have effectively won, the whole thing on that. It's just like, oh, can you hand me the Q-tip? If you don't have the name brand, you're going to know exactly what they say when they're looking for a Q-tip.
Yeah, well, that's considered winning in a way, but the companies themselves actually don't really like that because
they've got such a marketing hold. It is their corner of the thing. They are synonymous with the product itself.
Yeah, but I'm telling you that there's a downside, and that is that another company could come along and say and write Q-tip on their box and say, the Johnson & Johnson can sue them or whatever they're called. Sue them and
sue the pants off them.
And they can say, well, no, it's the generic term. Everybody uses Q-tips for everything that's
like this
anyways. And they might lose that. So that
except for the fact that so long as they sue, they manage to keep the name under copyright. So they always win under American law. And for a lot of companies, American law is where it matters.
But I'll tell you this: they can only win if they've shown that they've actively worked to protect that name in the past. So that's why they have to be against Q-tip becoming a generic term, and because if they don't actively try and protect their brand from that dilution, then they can lose it in that lawsuit.
Then again, with a team of lawyers like what Q-tip can afford, I think the judge is going to have a lot of wax in his ears not to be able to understand their argument. Because it's one thing, it works along the lines of the Happy Birthday song. I'm not going to sing it for anyone out there listening because it's actually trademarked. Now, you and I could sing it like, oh, hey, it's someone's birthday. Let's go sing them the Happy Birthday song. But every time you hear it in a movie, on a commercial, someone's paying a royalty fee. So it's the common usage, like you and I can say Q-tip till our heads explode, and that's okay. But if we try using it for, any commercial products or thing, or, on a movie-making endeavor, anything that would net us some sort of income, we have to pay a royalty fee. And so that's why Q-tip is able to get away with it, is that's where their standards are met. You can call anything of that shape a Q-tip until you're putting it in a movie or in a song or on a commercial, in which case it has to be done by the generic brand name sort of thing.
Oh yeah, it's something like that.
Like with it's like why everyone says, pass me the the Kleenex here. I got to blow my nose. Whereas in the movies, you'll see them more often say, need a facial tissue, and then someone will say, oh, don't you mean Kleenex? It's like, no, we got to protect, against name brand, becoming identified with the product itself, and they go off on a little tangent, effectively mocking the company on that. And they can get away with that, because all they have to do is pay the royalty fee, and they can say almost anything short of slander or libel.
Well, okay.
Whichever one.
On the other hand, like, if you're just, making a movie or whatever, you're allowed to have, the product in your movie. I mean, that's not...
So within a certain amount. There's the free usage stuff.
I mean, it's just part of our culture. So, and that's the thing. Like, the company has to sort of, like, I don't know, encourage. They can't be like... Obviously, they don't have legal recourse if somebody just mentions Kleenex in passing. But they have to... Part of protecting their brand is when it gets brought up, they have to be like, hey, you guys, we'd appreciate if you didn't do that, sort of that thing.
Well, then it becomes a bit of a tit for tat. It's like, okay, we'll let you use it, but don't slander us or anything, like that, and we're going to have you run it by us before we can allow it. So, like, let's say you're going into a frat house sort of thing in a movie, and all the walls are lined with, name a beer. Name a type of beer that comes in a can, Josh.
Caribou.
Sure thing. Every wall is just plastered with like flattened Caribou beer cans, and it's done up on the wall. In which case, what could be seen, like if you have them just laying around, like as the cans on there, oh yeah, it's just a frat boy thing, beer cans laying around, whatever. But if all of them are plastered on the wall, Caribou has the right to say, no, we don't want you to use this because it makes it look like Caribou's for people that drink a lot of beer, enough to plaster all the walls in their house that way. And so it looks like it's a bit of a binge drinking thing, and we would appreciate if you switch to Coors. See if you can get them to agree. Or maybe just go back and forth between it. See if we can do for a nice wall pattern. Just don't make it look like, people that drink too much beer drink Caribou.
Well, I'm not sure what you're saying they have the right to. Of course...
It can constituted, especially with the right team of lawyers, as a type of slander, even if it's not anything being said, sort of thing. So, if you go into a spot where people are drinking way too much and there's only the one type of beer being shown around, then a person could infer, people who drink too much drink this brand of beer. And
well, no, I don't think that. I mean, I can see somebody making that argument, but I don't see it.
I can see a lawyer being able to tie up the release date long enough that anybody trying to make a movie is going to rethink putting just one brand of beer in there, unless they managed to get like Coors to sponsor it, in which case it's like, we got 12 different kinds of Coors beer for you guys to have placed around here. Yeah, well, okay, so you're making that sort of like the whole slap and the strategic, that's what SLAP stands for, strategic lawsuits. And that's fair enough, because they'll cause a bit of trouble, or they'll tie things up long enough to no longer make it profitable, or anything like that. It's like, wasn't that supposed to come out like 3 years ago? It's like, well, yeah, the lawsuit just got done, but it's like, now all your jokes are 3 years out of date, buddy. Haha, happy timely humor. So
so that's sort of a soft power though too, because I don't think they would win a case like that.
No, but all they have to do is tie them up long enough in the courts to make it so that it's like, oh yes, all your recent timely humor stuff is outdated, and it's like your cell phones look so huge in the background now, it's almost hilarious as a side joke on its own. No one's going to take you seriously as something just coming out now. It clearly shows the weight of the years that have gone by.
I think a lot of movies take... Well,
about a year turnover from film to post-production to editing to release.
Okay.
With some exceptions, in which case they can do some quick post-editing stuff, some quick refilming, or even in the case of stuff like E.T., replace a gun with cell phones. Yeah, they did that. It was horrible. I hate to say it. I love you, Mr. Spielberg, but that edit was horrible. I'm sorry. yes, that's the end of that tangent. Let's go back to the dinosaurs.
We were talking about dinosaurs. Oh, and yeah, well, I guess you could always name a dinosaur after the Greek goddess Nike.
Oh, that would be a very interesting one. In which case, this is the dinosaur of victory.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, wouldn't that just be a bird because it survived the extinction events then? All birds are effectively Nikesaurus because they are the personification of victory?
I don't know how you got there, but okay.
Well, Nike was the goddess of victory.
Yeah.
In the long-term...
But how do you name all birds the same thing? They're already called birds.
Well, you could effectively consider any bird a Nikesaurus because...
So we're officially renaming birds as Nikesaurus.
Hey, PETA tried to rename fish into sea kittens. This is not any worse.
Yeah, but PETA, they're idiots. Of course, we're idiots too, so...
Well, we're arguing over dinosaurs and and slap lawsuits. So, take that all. But yes, you'd have to make an interesting argument saying why this dinosaur then would be the dinosaur of victory. Which I don't know. It's like, well, it was in a pose that looked dominant. Turns out it was getting its dinosaur arse handed to it. But we thought it was winning at the time, so we called it like the victorious dinosaur, and that's how we got the Nikesaurus. We thought there was already a Victorosaurus, so I guess there isn't? Oh, too late now. Whoops. I guess we'll name the next one that.
I like the thought, too, that you could, like a scientist could name the dinosaur a Nikesaurus, and then somebody could make a shoe called the Nikesaurus shoe and be like, what? It's not named after Nike, it's named after the dinosaur.
Well, yeah, then again, though, you run into the case where the lawyers can just tie you up and bleed you dry for so long they don't have to win.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, maybe if you're in China, sort of thing. I mean, they've got some very lax laws on that.
Yeah.
So look for that coming out of China sometime soon, the Nikesaurus shoe. In which case, hey, it'll be exactly the same quality because it's made in the same manufacturing facility just as part of the night shift work. There you go.
So we should talk about the cool nature of dinosaurs rather than all this. I find it interesting.
Well, here's a bit of a tangent for me. Do you think a lot of these older movies with dinosaurs and all the appearances of them are going to wind up looking silly now that we've learned that some of these dinosaurs were feathered?
Well, yeah, and they're doing a new Jurassic Park, right? Jurassic World. And we'll have to find out whether there's feathers on the dinosaurs.
Because I got to say, the T-Rex in the Jurassic Park movie was just such an awesomely scary sight.
Yeah.
But now that we know, though, yeah, there was a very good chance he had feathers. You look at the T-Rex and go, oh yeah, he does kind of have that plucked chicken sort of look to him, doesn't he? Oh yeah, I get that now.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you think we're going to have to effectively do remakes of a lot of movies that way, then?
Going to have to? I think it's an opportunity. I think people should make all kinds of remakes.
The Land Unknown can finally, redeem its potential value.
Yeah. I do. I want to see more dinosaur-themed movies. Like, Jurassic World is great, but it's not enough.
There are some that have been flops. I remember the one movie, Carnosaur, I believe it was. Even when I was young and I watched it, I didn't like it very much. They managed to turn chickens thanks to genetic engineering into little dinosaurs. They get loose and they kill people.
Actually, yeah, we should think about that because dinosaurs are so cool that people think that they're kind of a cure-all. It's like, well, we'll make a movie with dinosaurs in it. It's sure to sell.
They're like
and then
zombies.
They don't have to work hard on it.
A lot of people say you just add zombies to any sort of thing and bam, okay, you've got a new mod to a game, you've got a comic book going on, sort of thing. Doesn't always work. You have to get the formula right.
Well,
it's not cruise control for cool. It's not like Caps Lock.
Yeah, I find zombies generally lately. I mean, I'm not the biggest zombie fan, but I am happy with most zombie offerings, like films and video games. And I'm generally I think zombies have done pretty well lately in pop culture.
Except for that World War Z movie. That was
okay.
Sorry, Mr. Pitt. I mean, you're a good actor, and you did very well in there. It's just it deviated so far from the course of what was going on. And it was basically about you when it should have been more about like an ensemble cast. So, no offense to anybody in there, except for the writers, director, and anyone who wound up deciding to deviate so far from what was considered by most a very good book.
All right.
So there you go.
So yeah, Judgment on Daisy.
But okay, now what if we cross over with this? What if we have a movie where the fossils come back to life, in addition to just, the corpses of dead humans? What
sure.
if you actually do have, like a zombie movie, and all of a sudden
dinosaurs?
It takes a little bit longer, and well, they wouldn't be zombies, they'd just be skeletal, but it winds up being some sort of skeletal dinosaurs roaming around in the background.
Well, wasn't there a skeleton that came alive in Night at the Museum?
Yeah, but that was under a different sort of premise. It wasn't really a zombie. It was more like everything that exists there is real.
Yeah, it's more like an animated object, or even a...
Kind of like a, like a brave little toaster type thing where the inanimate really are real.
Yeah, or Toy Story for that matter.
Yes. It's a Ben Stiller Toy Story movie.
Well, okay.
Toy Story-esque.
So one of the problems I have with, sort of everything coming back to life, and this even applies in D&D, is that, in theory, like, the atoms in your body may have been, like, well, especially the air and the water, because that circulates so much.
Yeah.
But basically, like, it's circulated through dinosaurs and historical people and, the air.
Yeah, I remember, what's his face, Carl Sagan, doing that one bit, and he was like, I have a glass of water, and he pours it into the ocean. If Columbus had did this, when he was on his voyage, there would be so many molecules of that glass in every glass that you drink. And I was like, everyone's mind got blown, because, that's what Carl Sagan did for a living. He blew minds, man.
Yeah. And the same thing is true, not quite to the same extent, but with solids, like, bits of protein and iron that end up in your body. And
it has been, that is what fossilization is effectively the, piece-by-piece replacement of, living tissue with, non-living tissue.
Yeah. Does that carbon go into the atmosphere?
Not all of it, of course. That's why we can do some of those carbon-14 datings to get, I won't say the most accurate, but some very good, records of how far back things were. If you get something fairly fresh, the carbon-14 to carbon-12 ratio is just not going to be different enough for you to really make any accurate reflections.
Yeah, but that's radioactive decay.
That's random chance as a statistical probability over time and mass numbers. So yeah, but by and large, it's pretty much being replaced piece by piece. From like bone, like calcium, to what was around it at the time.
Yeah. Well, anyways, so my thought on the sort of the corpses reanimating and bones turning back is that they might have to draw in dust from like all around the world to sort of reconstitute some sort of. Well, I guess they can just be animating what's there.
So
right?
It would have to be a supernatural type zombie sort of thing, where whatever you've got there, it manages to come up.
Yeah.
Like a Night of the Living Dead sort of thing, as opposed to one of the other zombie types. So, because let's face it, they use the thing in Night of the Living Dead where it's like, oh yes, it's a gas, and when it's like, no, this isn't really moving properly based on anything like that. It must have the actual supernatural connection to it. I'm sorry, that's how it goes.
Yeah, so it would have to be kind of very localized, and it can't draw in.
Well, I can dig that. I can really dig that though, as a localized sort of thing. Like person causes, localized. I've done real bad, necromantic energies are going around, but only within a certain radius, and so everything in that city comes back up. And then you don't have to worry about what's happening around the entire world for this. It's a localized phenomenon. Like New York goes down as we're getting reports of zombies everywhere within the New York area, and then the Natural History Museum, it utilizes the energies, and then the dinosaurs start moving around. You got skeletal dinosaurs, and you don't even need them for the plot. You just have them in the background as awesomeness.
Oh, and of course, my other thought on sort of reanimation is that aren't there dead basically bacteria in all the soil, and isn't basically the whole world is filled with dead things to for lack of a better way to say it.
I do recall an interesting thing where they all the world lost the ability to die, and then all of a sudden the steaks start squirming because they're muscle tissue, so they
yeah.
And that's pretty creepy and all that.
Yeah, I suppose. Your supermarkets would come to life.
Not in any really nasty way, but the apple would slowly start apparently trying to regrow the rest of the tree it's attached to, and
yeah,
the meat section would be really horrible. The rest of the area, you'd probably be okay around where the Twinkies are and all that, because that's been modified enough. You can't qualify that as really living. But the meat section, the produce sections, would be a little weird.
And you know, like, that's weird too, because like dead things are homes to many living things.
Yeah.
I mean, to get kind of gruesome.
So I suppose
about
you'd have
it,
to
but
wind up, putting some sort of stipulations on this necromantic energy in the city. Like, it would only affect chordates, anything with a spine. You know, if you don't have a spine, I'm sorry, you're staying dead.
Okay, so the bacteria are fine.
The bacteria stay alive and dead as they so are. The vegetables aren't doing much. You could try and make an argument about stuff like lettuce having effectively a spine, but that's really kind of like the heart of the lettuce sort of thing. It's not really the same thing.
And everybody would have to eat what is octopus? You can eat octopus.
Octopus you could eat. Well, you could utilize the bacteria. There's a lot of yogurt getting eaten.
Yogurt.
And you could do your
soy
soy protein.
your dairy.
Basically, everyone goes vegan.
Yeah.
Probably vegetarian, but I don't want to accidentally find out that the milk I'm drinking came from a zombie cow.
Zombie cows. There you go. Awesome.
They produce curdled milk. You leave it in there a little ways longer and you get them to run around, they'll produce butter. But yeah, then dinosaurs, just the dinosaurs, a nice scene in the background for how much is being affected in this zombie outbreak. And it's just a skeletal T-Rex about 3 blocks down. Can you see it with the binoculars? Oh god, let's get to the mall now. And that way, it's like smaller things. All you have to do is worry about like zombie people, zombie dogs, and zombie rats. I think would be a little worse.
Yeah. What about like zombie? Like, how does that T-Rex skeleton? Like, are they just from the museums and the universities?
Well, here's the interesting thing about that. Sadly, it would have to be faux necromancy in this case, because a lot of the bones that you see in there aren't actually even the fossils. They are the plaster recasts of them.
Yeah.
So, those would be nice, but then, all of a sudden you get like the dinosaur's bones like in the back reassembling themselves as they go.
Yeah, because like each bone is in a different drawer, sort of, in the archives. Or some of them will lend out bones to other universities and stuff. So there will be some, 4 or 5 bones over in Europe and 4 or 5 bones over in a university in China or something.
I think that makes sense because, if you're going with something that old, having a few missing pieces really helps highlight its age.
Okay, yeah.
So,
And that's the thing about dinosaur like specimens is many of them aren't complete to begin with. Like many of them are you just found so much of a skeleton. In that case, I suppose you could utilize like a zombie, or skeletal dinosaurs in the background as a way to determine that no, this is by no means any sort of real, like dead coming back. This is clearly a magical effect because it's operating on like sympathetic, styles. It's not the real bone; it's the plastic recreation, but it's still a complete skeleton, and that's why it animates. Okay. It's not a real skeleton, but it is of a creature that we perceive, so it's all like psychosomatic stuff, and that works well for magics. Okay, so there we go. We have a scenario for zombie dinosaurs. So our work is complete. Are we? We're almost through. I should mention we have an email address. Oh yes. Yeah. If the listeners out there would like to send us email and send us their thoughts on zombie dinosaurs, or whether one of us got things totally horribly wrong. I think I might have on the whole legal stuff. We're not lawyers, so I'm not a lawyer, but I do read a couple law blogs, and I know that they can really tie up a lot of time just by the term they use is like dickering around. I don't think that's a swear. I think that's an actual proper term. Okay, well then I don't have to bleep it. There you go. What else? Leave us reviews on iTunes. You can tweet at me at spaceboot1, spaceboot numeral 1. I haven't been tweeting much lately, but if people send tweets, I will tweet back, I guess. It helps, resurrect your tweet stuff, so you don't have to worry about zombie tweets. That's right. Facebook.com/The Simulationist. You can like the page, and you can comment on this show or any of our past shows. Yeah. Okay. So. All right. So here's another notion to run by you for why we use dinosaurs so frequently. Now, I have a concept that the human mind has a genetic print on it, sort of thing. Like that's why we're able to learn the same language, whereas it's really hard to teach other animals English or whatever language. Or any language. Okay. Yeah. So if we have this in this thing, we have certain holes or forms, and despite how things change, we still fill them in a similar way. So what used to be the Black Knight is now the Man in Black.
as an agent of the government without any signs, designs, and just a black motif going about doing dark deeds. Instead of fairies, like weird things that you can't probably understand, abducting people for who knows reasons, and sometimes having kids with them, aliens. So in this case, could dinosaurs be the representation to fill what used to be stuff like dragons and other large, horrible, beasties?
Sure, but in
this case, it would be that the reason why we use them so much is because, dude, dragons, come on, let's get realistic. That's horrible. Oh, someone brought back dinosaurs, eh? Must be genetics tampering with the stuff in the amber. I get the whole thing. I will buy that. And so it's just with our modern minds, as we have this instinctive, biological pattern, imprinted into our minds that says we dig these large beasts that hunt upon us, things like us. In which case, dragons are passé. They aren't a part of our world. And so as such, dinosaurs are part of our world. We can go to the Natural History Museum and see them. Mm-hmm. And so they fill that same part in our minds. So anytime you see a movie starring dinosaurs and all that, you can rewatch that one more time and imagine them as all dragons. Or, alternatively, go rewatch the Harry Potter movies, and instead of seeing dragons going on there, picture them as dinosaurs in your mind.
Yep.
Boom. Extra chance to watch everything involving either one of them.
Well, and I think a lot of sort of our modern day filmmakers, when they do sort of their dragon, if they're doing the fantasy ones like How to Train Your Dragon or Dragonheart or Reign of Fire or all the dragon movies and The Hobbit, they do take inspiration from what we know about dinosaurs now. They take that very seriously because that's sort of in our cultural, I wouldn't say innate, but just the fact that we have so many stories about dinosaurs that people expect those big dragons to look a certain way.
And now here's the final twist on my theory.
All right.
Is that it's not just dragons that they wind up copying from. It's the concept of demons and all that sort of thing too. Because they're looking like demonic, like dinosaurs.
Supernatural.
And I mean, they are called tyrant, like hell lizards and all sort of things like that. They very much do invoke an infernal motif, if you will allow me to use such prosaic terms.
Well, which do?
The dinosaurs and their names, they do have an infernal bent to them.
Yeah.
Just be we call this the horrible hell lizard, and it winds up coming up to a patasaurus or something, that just sounds goofy in Latin.
Well, it's kind of the Paradise Lost hellscape sort of,
pandemonium, like all demon city.
Yeah, with just giant monsters in it. Yeah, for sure.
So in that case, they fill a double void. No, we can't actually buy, demons are just going to start showing up and they're going to be 20 stories tall and ruining things.
Yeah.
But we can buy a large dinosaur and just make them look really wicked. Everyone, okay, I can buy that. That's the harsh, nature, red of tooth and claw. I can understand that. It's the predator of predators.
Well, I can't think of an example of a film, but if they did a demon dinosaur planet where a team of explorers, Earth
rockets
explorers,
through space and land.
I guess it could be a Star Trek episode or whatever, but lands on a planet and it's covered in dinosaurs. In which case,
you'd for an easier example, you'd probably want to go over to the Warhammer universe, the Warhammer 40K. They do have horrible planets. They effectively called death planets. To go down there, if you're a super soldier, you are going to die. And if you are a super soldier, your life expectancy ain't doing that great. They do have stuff, and it will be, 20,000 years ago, humanity decided to try and recreate the dinosaurs on this planet and have them live peacefully as an eco-habitat, and then things went really nasty, vicious, and sometimes demons infest them, because, hey, it's Warhammer, things get worse. Everything always gets worse.
Yeah. Or I suppose you could have, if you had a fantasy setting with, alternate material planes. That could be another way to do it.
That could work well. I could dig that, yeah. Or I suppose if you're just kind of tired of all these humanoid demons in D&D, you just start applying, half demon templates onto dinosaurs.
Yeah. Or Dark Sun, I guess, just as big.
Oh, yes, they would do very well in there. They would lean more towards extraordinary abilities, nothing like, oh, and then it starts chanting in Latin and cursing at you. Although that might make for an interesting one-off unique thing. There are a lot of nice unique monsters and a lot of rules for unique monsters in the Dark Sun. It's much more open to that than your average campaign setting. So yeah, I can buy that. So did I blow your mind with my theory? That dinosaurs just happen to represent the modern mindset of two previous mindsets, dragons and... Because mind you, dragons were all, seen at least, from a Christian perspective, at least as demonic themselves.
Yeah,
that's why
true.
St. George fought one.
Yeah, they represent, the serpent and all
sin
that.
and the horrible nature and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think I like that. I like that thought.
So then they're a monster of expedience, rather than actually, trying to convince people that, a demon can exist, or and then dragons started flying around. And it's like, well, no, we got this, we can use that, and that's part of our natural history, so we can do that, and people will buy it a lot easier. And it's like, well, that saves us 10 minutes of script time. I don't have to write about these jerk people. I can show more dinosaurs.
I don't know. Like, that's the thing is, I don't feel like I've seen that done, and I suppose I would love to see something like where dinosaurs are kind of spiritualized in some way. And maybe...
Well, in that case, maybe we can try picking up some of the werewolf New World of Darkness stuff.
Okay.
They do have, the reptilians did exist back when the dinosaurs thing, they were lycanthropes back, therianthropes back then.
Okay.
There weren't any real mammals, so you couldn't have werewolves back then, but they represented the various beastie things. And that has an interesting niche then. They're trying to get the world back to the time of the dinosaurs, because they had a wicked good civilization back then, and then mammals came and ruined everything. Argle bargle.
Okay. Well, and Jurassic Park had some, sort of, not religious, but sort of spiritual elements, and the dinosaurs are, full of awe, and they're very primal in a lot of ways, so there might be some more
of a pagan religious type thing, where they are the epitome of nature, the personification of it, always striving and trying and doing harder, and that's why they keep shocking themselves until, the power goes out. Spoiler alert, I suppose. Sorry.
Well, I'm looking forward to Jurassic World, I'll say that. And there may be some cool stuff in there, so here we go. Looking forward to Jurassic World and D&D 5th edition.
Yeah. There's always something for, on the horizon just to look forward to. And with any luck, there'll always be a dinosaur there to help keep us amazed. Until you get a nice thing about demon, dragons coming out. In which case we can lay off the dinosaurs for a little while. They can go, take 5 with the zombies.
Although, you know what I want to see? I want to see something like, is it called Pern? The dragon?
Oh, yes.
Where dinosaurs are sort of put to work,
Well, the one thing about Pern that always gets me is, as the author once said, is I wrote a short story and then the fans wouldn't let me stop. 4,000 pages later, I'm still writing. I always prefer when the author wants to write. They feel like they have something to tell, not like, well, the fans keep demanding it. I guess I got to keep writing. Mm-hmm. I'll come up with a story about... No. If it flows naturally, I think you get a better story.
Yeah.
But that said, Pern is just dripping with style and fun and a unique back thing.
I like it. That's I suppose that's what fan fiction is for too. Like if people like it so much, why not?
What if the author just effectively says, I'm taking a hiatus from it, but if you write and send in, I'll have some people review it, and then we'll do a published, fan fiction, and it'll be considered canon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you and I have talked about that sort of idea before, so I mean,
we'll pay you 3 cents a word for your short stories, and then they wind up getting some really good short stories, and the people get recognition, and the author can move on to something else that they really want to write about.
Yep.
Everyone wins. Adopt this style. Everyone. There you go.
Well, I think that's a podcast.
Yeah. Some interesting tangents this week. But yeah, we got to talk about dinosaurs, and that always makes me happy.
Okay, we did. Thanks to all of you for listening. Thanks for staying to the end. If you're listening,
if you skipped ahead to the end, go back. Come on.
If you're listening in the future, then there's probably already another one queued up. So
I know. I can't wait to hear what we talk about next week.
Yeah, well, in that case, we'll see you in a minute. If you're listening in the near present, we'll see you. Lucky
future us gets to listen to us just in a minute or two. That's
Yeah.
I'm
But
so envious.
For us, it will be next week, and that's a podcast. I said that.
Yeah,
Just-
take care out there.
Okay, and send money.